Hi all, welcome to the penultimate episode of the series.
Yes.
Before we completely exhaust the topic of case cracking, we want to introduce storytelling. You have a beautiful analysis, amazing solutions and a spot-on implementation plan. But you might wonder how to organize and share all this information and convey it the best way possible. Having great storytelling skills is valuable, but rare. It might require years of training to nail it. However, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So, let's start, shall we?
Of course. With the focus on storytelling, we are going to answer two questions. How can you create a clear red line throughout your presentation? And secondly, how does a great presentation look like visually?
First, what do we mean with the red line? We briefly touched upon this in episode 5.
Yeah.
The red line is the leading line in your storytelling. It reflects your thought process. It reveals the decisions you take, but also the reasons behind your decisions.
Yeah.
Imagine it like navigating through traffic in a city. Your task is to take us, your audience, from A to B. With other words, take us from the problems to the solutions. You should hold our hand and walk us through in a way that we become familiar with the route. This is what the case company needs, because at a later point they want to implement your solution. That means the company should be able to take the same route you propose now, but this time by themselves. You can make the route easy to follow, but you can also make it very complicated. You can create for us a simple, memorable, well-thought journey. But you can also draw a hazy red line which goes from A to B in zigzags and detours. That is confusing and inefficient.
Right. And the longer your story, the longer this red line, which increases the risk to get lost in details. So that's why it's useful to set checkpoints. This way you break down our journey, your journey, into smaller parts and everything becomes easier to follow. This gives focus. You know what comes next and you can find an efficient way to get there. So when building your storyline, you always want to identify the next checkpoint. Work from checkpoint to checkpoint and incorporate those points into your presentation. So we agree that you want to build a clear red line with a flawless logic. Very, very important. So now let's talk about visualizing your story. Whenever you crack a case and you share the outcome, you want to create a presentation. And luckily there are plenty of tools available and you can choose one to your liking, no problem. Whether that is a PowerPoint, a Prezi, a Canva or any other software, doesn't matter, unless you're requested to deliver a specific format. And that's often the case and we prefer PowerPoint. That's probably the most accessible to everyone. And next we want to give you 4 tips on how to use PowerPoint.
Tip 1. Design your own slide deck. No matter what software you use, the goal is the same. You want to create a visual aid that helps telling your story the best way possible. A great design is an important part of that. By default, PowerPoint only has a handful of visual options for slide backgrounds. Those are alright at best. They do the job, but the outcome will not be spectacular. So if you can, spend some time designing your own slide deck. Build a cover page that introduces your team. Play around with color combinations, fonts, styles, those small details that make a presentation unique. Work towards a consistent design throughout your presentation with maximum 2 or 3 font types and a handful of colors. Whenever possible, avoid strong colors like bright red and neon green. Subtle colors, carefully selected together, usually look better.
Yeah.
You can also match the case company's color scheme. Spend some time finding great royalty-free pictures that fits your theme. Keep in mind, a beautiful slide deck does not only serve a visual purpose, but also a storytelling one.
Yes. And now number 2. Build slide elements that make you work faster. And the more you work with cases, the more you realize the importance of working efficiently. And when you crack a case, under time pressure, you need to be fast, really fast. Therefore, you need to be prepared. So you do not only need to create a design beforehand, but you also need to build templates for frameworks that are more complex to create, like a value proposition canvas or a customer persona. Place the titles, the pictures, the legends already where they belong, so you can fill out your template faster, instead of making it from scratch, which costs a lot of your case cracking time, and that's something you do not want. Another thing you can do is to use the Smart Art function in PowerPoint. Here you can use layouts that help delivering your story. You can create Venn diagrams, flowcharts, organograms, place hierarchies in a pyramid, and much more. Lastly, know where you can access icons. Using icons help to visualize your message without using words and will elevate your visual storytelling.
Tip 3. Keep it simple. With so many things you can do, it is easy to overdo it.
Yeah.
But experience tells us usually it's better to keep it stupid simple. Remember the acronym KISS. More complex and more grandiose things are not necessarily better. Sometimes less is more.
Right.
Therefore, avoid unnecessary object animations and slide transitions. Things flying around on your presentation can create confusion and even dizziness.
No.
Fancy slide transitions, videos, GIFs and audio can break the flow in your storytelling. Moreover, you can also stumble in technical difficulties. For instance, a video you embedded into your presentation will not load. It is better to avoid that.
Yeah, right. Number 4, keep it organized. How you organize information on your slide is important. Most, let's say, Western minds are trained to read from left to right, from top to bottom. So it's more convenient to organize your information that way. Don't put an item all the way to the right if you want to talk about that first. Also, you want to avoid the excessive use of texts. Your audience needs to focus on what you say and what you show at the same time. And on top of that, your audience is taking notes. So don't give them even more headache by showing large texts. They have no time to read that. And whenever possible, use pictures, figures, icons to support your story. Leave some space on the edges and make sure every item you want to show is visible and readable. But don't cram everything to the middle, strike for a balance. Also, limit what you want to show on one slide. Too much information on one slide will confuse your audience and they will lose track.
And lastly, we want to give you a tip our students use during case competitions. To make their presentations easier to follow, our students visualize the checkpoints of their red line. They place a progress bar on the bottom of their presentation. As the different phases get highlighted, this gives a simple yet effective overview of their progress in the storyline. Nicely organized and easy to follow.
Well, this concludes our episode about storytelling. We thank you for your attention and do not forget, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. See you soon.
Bye bye.